Hello, everyone. Hi, Pam. Hi, Roger. Welcome to our show, Midday Musing. This is our 11th episode, and we're so excited that you were able to join us this afternoon. I know that many of us, we're really looking forward to hear about the time-tested wisdom and principles that you can hand it over to the aspiring and evolving leaders that we are. And we're so excited, and we want to thank you so much for joining us and giving us this encouragement. So at this time, I'm going to be asking Pam to introduce our guest, Roger Lamb, to us.
Yes, I am just super excited that I get to introduce Roger. Roger has been one of my spiritual heroes. Just professionally, he served as CEO and founder of DisciplesToday, which is an online connector of over 150 churches in the International Churches of Christ. But personally, he's been a mentor, a dear friend, a spiritual hero in my life. As a campus student, he was my minister, and he inspired me to love Jesus and to follow his call. So I am so excited that Roger's with us, and we're going to learn so much.
Thank you. It is my honor to be here, and your life just inspires me, Pam. Amen. And Rita as well.
Thank you, Roger. Well, without further ado, I'm going to go straight into the questions. I know that from whatever I read about you, you had like 50 years plus of experience. And so my question for you is, in your tenure as a leader with various capacities, what characteristics would you say served you the best and got you the results that you wanted or had the impact?
That is such a key question to so many things. I have a dear friend, Wyndham Shaw, who passed away about a year ago. But he synthesized the characteristics of a leader better than anyone I'd ever heard. And these are things that I've striven for, but I think they're key to any leader. The first is competency. You have to be competent at what you're doing and not just try to wing it. You have to study, you have to learn, you have to be adaptable and become competent in whatever you're doing. Character is a key. This is sadly missing in so many leadership circles today. But real leadership doesn't happen without real character. Chemistry is another one. And this is an intangible connection that you have with your group. Some leaders cannot work with a certain group and then move to another group and it goes awesome because the chemistry wasn't right. Collaboration is another one. You know how to work for the best solution with others.
Right.
That's a difficult thing. You have to learn. That was not my strength because I was one of those that if you would just agree with me, then we'd have the right answer, you know. But collaboration is messy. It's time consuming, but it winds up with the best solution. Commitment. Unfortunately, this is where a lot of people fail to become a leader because they're not willing to pay the price of being a leader. True. And it takes commitment. And I've been described as a humbly stubborn person. And I thought, I'll take that. I like that, actually, because you have to be stubborn for your convictions, what you believe in. You have to be committed to your convictions. And then compassion. That gets left out also too often. But a real leader is a servant leader. And if you don't have empathy and compassion, you really are not going to wind up being a good leader. Yeah. So that's I've found all of those being challenging and very helpful.
I appreciate you sharing all that, Roger, because you model all of that so well. I think one of the other things that really stands out to me is how culturally intelligent you are. Way before social media became popular, you had this vision to connect people of different cultures around the world. So how did you develop that conviction of connectivity with people, and how can the future generation carry this legacy that you've started?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, these are all things that you have to work on. You don't just be that way. And God put me in some situations, I think, to really help. The first one was when I was a sophomore in high school. Our family moved to Germany. My dad was in the military. We lived on an Air Force, but we lived in the city first, then on the base, and then traveled around Europe, got to know people from around Europe. And it opened my eyes that, oh, people do things different ways than we do. And it's not right or wrong, it's different. Yeah. And that was so good for me. And I would go to camp for 2 weeks every summer with kids from all over Europe and just learn and build relationships. And that opened my eyes. Then I went to college in the South at a Christian college in the middle of the Deep South in 1965. I got a real cultural experience there, realizing in our own country there's so many cultures and the ways we treat other cultures. In fact, I was at a National Education Association meeting in Dallas, representing the students, leaders from Arkansas, at this meeting when Martin Luther King was shot. And they came on the middle of the meeting and announced that he'd been shot. Wow. And it changes you and all the people I got to meet and learn and know. And then I also was exposed to a lot of missionaries and in Europe, but also at Harding, and I got to learn about how that we weren't trying to change their culture. We were trying to help their hearts with the Bible. And so that gave me some good convictions there about that. So coming out of the 60s, then when our set of churches started, myself and many of the others that started came in with deep convictions. We were not going to have churches that were all white like we grew up in.
Right.
And that Jesus' vision for the church was to make disciples of all nations.
Right.
And that was not easy, but that was the goal. And so we just prayed and believed and went about it. So those were what really shaped me to really want to and be interested in all these cultures.
What a gift. Thank you. Thank you, Roger.
I love how you shared about you learned from your experiences. You know, so many of us, we have the experience, but we actually don't learn from them. And, you know, going back to my other question for you, Roger, I know that as a leader, you have suffered a deep loss and personal pain. You have known illness and you have known, you know, separation and just death in your family. And can you tell us what kept you going in times like that, in those dark days? And what advice would you give to leaders who face disappointments in their life or who get disillusioned because of personal loss?
All of us deal with loss eventually. We're going to, you know, life has a cycle.
Yes.
Sometimes it doesn't come like you expected. You know, our oldest son had leukemia when he was 6 years old.
Wow.
And his best friend, next door neighbor, had died of leukemia 9 months earlier. And gratefully, that son now is our evangelist in the church I'm in. My wife got cancer immediately after he got cured. And 5% of the women survive. And I'm grateful she's still with us, and her health is issues, but so grateful she's here. And then later on, our youngest son, he and I were the only really healthy ones. As an adult, he was a touring musician, being very successful, appearing on festivals, and he came down with adult leukemia and died a year later.
Wow.
And then 2 years later, our daughter died. And in between, and span there, all of our parents and my sister died as well.
Wow.
So that was it was quite a challenging stretch for us. So some of the key things that we've learned, hopefully, and keep trying to learn. The first one is people say, well, do you ever ask why, or, you know, God, why'd you do this? Or does it cause you to distrust God? And actually, so many things happened with us with Michael that we've been able to learn and repeat over and over. But one of the things we learned immediately was, how can I mistrust or doubt the only person who can help me?
Right.
And that's God. He's the only one who can really help ultimately. And I don't want to curse the person who can help me.
Right.
You know. The second thing is, you have to go through the valley of the shadow of death.
Yeah.
You can't go around it, and you shouldn't camp out in it.
Right.
You got to go through it, but you can get through it. If you keep walking, if you walk with God, it just makes all the difference. The third thing is, you got to lean on your relationships. And it's so tempting to isolate when you're in grief.
Yes.
Because you don't want people to see it, or frankly, it's just such confusion and so many things that you've never experienced before. But the worst thing to do is to keep isolating. You got to lean on the relationships God gave you. Another thing is to, I think it's very important to look for the lessons. What am I to be learning here?
Right.
That should be true in everything in life. But I know the thing that with David and Christy that really dawned on me was, I never had understood before why people went to such self-destructive ways to numb their pain.
Right.
You know, drugs and alcohol and acting out and all kinds of stuff. And I thought, wow, this pain is so deep.
It is.
How do you deal with it if you don't have God's help to deal with it? And so that helped me be a lot more compassionate, I think. And the last thing, Marcia coined this phrase, it's so true, is when you're helping each other with grief, you share, you don't compare. And so often we're uncomfortable when we're trying to help them with their grief. And so we compare their grief to ours.
Right.
Well, my mom died, or when this died, or, you know, and we're hijacking their grief and their healing. And there is an intersection, is, you know, your grief's different than mine. Here's what mine was like. And I think here's where ours were similar. Right. Maybe sharing, but don't compare your grief. That's not helpful to other people. Right. So many, many more lessons, but those are some of the key ones.
Very valuable.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing. I think there's so much in there. I know as a leader, you've experienced disunity, betrayal, broken relationships. So how did you deal with all that negative emotions, and what advice do you have for future leaders who've experiencing these challenges?
That is such a great question too. You know, I think one of the first things is you have to manage your expectations. If you live long enough, you're going to experience disunity, betrayal, and broken relationships.
Right.
That is a part of life because we live in a fallen world. And what hurts the most is when you don't expect it to happen, and then it does, and it's crushing. Interesting thing, I remember when that first really hit on me, when I really felt my first betrayal, and then it dawned on me, the Bible is all about these things.
Yes.
It has it all the way. That was not what I was looking for, but it's in there. Life, if you look around, it happens all the time. But when it happens to you, it makes it totally different.
Yeah.
Then something we learned is life is not what happens to you, it's how you respond to what happened.
Yeah.
And I remember with Michael, that was a big disappointment. The church was doing so well and everything was going great. And all of a sudden he's probably going to die was our thought. And we're like, why us? Why this? Why, you know, and then it dawned on us, no, it's a test. It's how do we respond? And do we let this define us? Or do we let it defeat us? Or do we let it motivate us to do something? So we actually then, after we figured that out, we decided to go plant a church while he was still in chemotherapy.
Wow.
And God just really blessed that in Champaign, Illinois. And then we went to Chicago and got to be with Pam and her family. So that was a big lesson to learn. I think another one is we have to learn the forgiveness and humility aspects of love.
Right.
Yeah.
We all want the emotional, warm, fuzzy feelings of love and the part that make us feel good and raise our endorphins and you know, give us tingles and goosebumps. We like that.
Yeah.
But the hard part of love is forgiveness and humility.
Right.
That's right.
But that's the deepest part of love, really.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you're trying to follow Jesus, you're not really learning to be like Jesus until you've gone there.
Right.
Right.
That's the most challenging, but we have a model. We have somebody who's already done it and shows us how. That's so encouraging.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. That is so valuable.
Yeah. And it's very inspiring to hear how through personal pain, you kept moving forward because your focus is Jesus. Because, you know, Jesus was willing to go through the suffering. You know, he didn't hold back when he knew that suffering was a way through it. I think, you know, that's very inspiring, Roger, your life story and just how you handled these things that came your way. I have just one final question for you, which is if you had to give us, let's say, 3 sentences or phrases to our younger generation, what would you say?
That is so good. And I'm so vested in this because life is generational. You know,
Right.
faith is generational. Everything's generational. I love our younger generation. You know, we got 4 grandkids, all born since 2003. So that's just very cool. From 17 to 5. That's quite a good span there.
Lots of
But
joy.
I think what I would say to them and to others is know God, know yourself, and commit to change the world.
Amen.
Okay.
That's simple,
Yes.
but it's a lot.
Right.
And they can remember that.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm sure our younger viewers will love that. You know, if there's anything, they're going to remember that for sure.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
Well, thank you, Roger. Thank you for making time and just being with us. I mean, I've learned so much. I think about what stands out to me is no matter how old you are, you're a learner. So whatever happens in our lives, looking for those lessons and growing and embracing it and expect to go through the valleys. As young leaders, sometimes we think everything's going to be awesome, but the valleys will come. And when the valleys do come, go through it. Don't get stuck there. So thank you for all the wisdom that you've given us today and the time that you've invested in us. We really love you. So.
Can I give you one more nugget?
Go for it.
I had to decide this, and I decided by watching people older than me many years ago. But I decided I'm not going to become a grumpy old man.
Amen. That's a good.
I think everybody needs to take that challenge and make a commitment. I'm not going to be a grumpy old person.
That's right. That's why the younger people are after you, because they want to be like you.
Yeah, well, it was awesome. And we're just so grateful. And we feel so blessed, even though our time together has been very short. But I believe there's so much of blessing just in the things that you shared and gave us a glimpse of your life. And I know that many a times we are going to remember that and, come back to it. And know that there is wisdom and, the scriptures and everything that it says is so true.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining us today. I want to thank the viewers for all your support and continue watching, because we're going to have more people come on in the next few weeks and really share about their life and what they can offer us. So until next week, we are signing off right now.
Thank you so
That's
much.
right.
Thank you. This has been a joy and an honor.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.